And hello, I am Modwiz, also Radagast is my name. So, welcome all, and this is Mystic Brew, and we'll be discussing the I'll call it the Tartarian theme. And so I guess we're going to get into it fairly quick. I have a folder chosen with a lot of images, many taken from shots of Martin Liedtke and others. But again, we're all kind of looking at this and pulling things together, and I have perspectives that the others don't have, and I'm glad they're putting theirs out. And I figure, I have things that just naturally arise. I don't have to work very hard. What would be my take on it, because I have my take, and I tend to, and they've done their take, and there's plenty of overlap, and it's a place where we don't overlap that I try to look for. To expand it. The others will all bring what they see and what they know and what they intuit, and then of course we use our imaginations. That's part of our gifts from the Creator. So it's good that we use our imaginations, and because if we make an error, we can correct it. So it's not a big deal. Nobody's doing. I know when I'm listening to all the people. If anybody is in error in any way, and I'm not saying they are, I know none of it's intentional. So to me, no foul. So anyway, let me just kind of get my screen prepped here. All right, well, there it is. So I have some pictures. Now I'm originally from New York City, the Bronx to be precise, but New York City is made of 5 boroughs. How Staten Island got to be a borough of New York, I guess, was just the Empire State won from New Jersey. But that's you'd have to know the city for that to even be a conversation that would have anything coherent to it. So I'm going to take my face off. It's 2 o'clock in the morning where I am, and after this is done, I'll mellow out a bit and go to sleep. But I'm going to start off with art, because the artists, especially the really great artists. Now I'm not sure who this first one is. I don't know whether it's Caravaggio. I know the second one is purported to be one of Leonardo da Vinci's first finished pieces. And also before I begin, I want to welcome all the new subscribers. I've had a good trickle, and that's as a quiet channel and someone who isn't getting a lot of help. Everybody's asking for the financial help. I'm retired and had some very humble jobs, so retirement is humble. And and I usually will have like my email that I use for PayPal, radagastlmt@gmail.com. The LMT is for licensed massage therapist. But when I moved out of New York and I couldn't afford for the CEUs, which it's not about skill, it's about who have you paid in the last 4 years. So it lapsed. My skills didn't lapse. The license of the system of the controllers lapsed. But anyway, so it's radagastlmt@gmail.com. If you can or want to, it's more of a want. But obviously, if you can't, wanting doesn't make a whole lot of difference. I have a few speakers I want to buy so I can do some demonstrations, because I'm also going to be putting out videos about gear and stuff. I have a few different interests. Just so those people of you who have subscribed to listen to this kind of Tartarian theme stuff, Mud Flood and the rest of it, the themes that are all breaking out right now. That's I'll be doing that. But if if you're waiting for one of these, I'm quite sure most of the new subscribers have subscribed for that, and not for me to talk about speakers or other musical things. But if you see one go up, please don't be shocked and think I've suddenly I subscribed to him, I was waiting for this. There'll be a little mixing and matching. The gear stuff is a little more tricky to manage. This is a lot easier for me to manage. So anyway, so that's what this one's going to be. And and if you do go to PayPal, and you know the whole thing is, you know, send money to friends and family. You know, that way it's, you know, make it real. You know, let's make this about being friends and family. And it's a PayPal that I had from the days when I had an online web business that didn't do very much, but I made a lot of skincare and other products. So if you do happen to go to PayPal and put in radagast@gmail.com and send to friends and family, and you get a receipt for Essences of Health and Beauty, do not be alarmed. That's what that account is. All right. So on with the show. And so I'm going to put up this first one. I think this one's by Caravaggio. And I'm going to have, you know, so anyway, oh, that's right. Did I get rid of, okay, so I just have my crickets and things in the background. And I don't think it's, yeah, maybe I should turn it down a little bit. I mean, I think it's pleasant, but what do I know? There we go. That's much better. So, let me get into, so I can kind of, now I want to, this is, I mean, first of all, look at the colors. The colors are absolutely beautiful. Excuse me. And this is, these are both of the Annunciation, and I guess the Annunciation happened when her cousin Elizabeth was 6 months pregnant with who would become John the Baptist, and then Mary, who I believe is this woman over here, and gets the announcement from the angel that you know, she's going to be pregnant, and you know, if you're familiar. So anyway, this is the Annunciation. And so the Annunciation, you know, happened right around, obviously, when officially AD or BC turns into AD. Okay, that funny little marker that history plays with. Playing is a little bit of a euphemism, but we'll leave it there. So I want to just take a look. We can see the incredible colors. This is fortunately I got this and got it in a very high resolution. So as I enlarge it, it will enlarge well. Some of the screenshots I took, they probably weren't great resolution, but you know, copies of copies don't do so well, but they'll be good enough. But anyway, we're here, and these are really good. So let me start blowing this up, and also they're called triptychs because of the 3 panes. So you can see this, but I mean, even when we look at the detail here, I mean, the detail of this painting is astounding when you're looking up close here. So anyway, so we're going to go over here. Now, once again, this is supposed to be basically when, you know, 2,000 years ago, 2019 years ago, right? Roughly thereabouts. So let's look at the, and supposedly in Jerusalem. Now, one of the maps I will get to a little bit later should be a little bit interesting about maybe where Jerusalem was. And also, if you haven't gotten, you know, like at least looked at some of the work of Anatoly Fomenko, and I don't mean his Russophile stuff, but just, you know, some of the more of the mathematical things he did, that might creep into my language here. I've known about Anatoly Fomenko for 4 years now. I have read some of the stuff that's online from his book, History, fiction, science or fiction, I forget. You know, I hope everybody knows what it is. If not, it's quite all right. So we're going to look at this, you know, biblical painting, and not for nothing, this guy looks almost like a Martin Luther kind of guy, and I mean, he's, you know, he almost already looks like he's a monk type. But, you know, how could we have monks when Jesus hasn't been born yet? Anyway, so we have it here's a very pious looking woman. The clothing of these people, I mean, the detail is really quite lovely. I mean, look at over here, okay? You can see these are some very nice these people have good clothing. And the other thing is also in all cases, almost all women have their head covered. And of course, according to official history, there would be no Islam for almost another 700 years. So, I mean, look at the detail on the door, even the keys here, and everything. I mean, the grain of the wood. And what I found particularly interesting, is the way the artist rendered. Well, first of all, let's look at the background here. I mean, look at these houses in the background. I mean, this really could be like, you know, Kew Gardens, Queens, now. We have this gentleman over here, but look at the rendering of the masonry over here. And I mean, the artist is even demonstrating this is not even good Tartarian masonry. There's a gap over here. There's mortar sticking out. As you know, Tartarian masonry and bricklaying is pristine and immaculate. So whoever built this seems like maybe they weren't, you know, the older, higher culture, but, you know, close enough. Again, there's, you know, there could have been an apprentice as the fall, but who knows when this time framing was. But even here, look, there's like a little antiquitech device on this in this roof here, or at least, you know, what we've been calling that, and almost like the, you know, the kind of the Dutch style here. And again, this is supposed to be 2,000 years ago. And even here, I mean, you know, it's not terrible masonry, but again, you can see that, you know, there's a little bit of some sloppy mortar over here, and once again, gaps in the brick. This appears to be a rose bush, and then we'll get back down here and look at this, you know, again, the stonework. And as you can see, the mortar is not, I mean, the artist is the rendering of this is astounding. But we can, you know, to see I mean, it's not a bad mortar job, but the, you know, the exquisite quality of what we normally see in the kind of buildings we look at, and we will look at some of them, especially the Brooklyn Bridge. But, you know, you see these renderings, and it's just, you know, pretty, you know, this is well done. Okay, so we're going to skip Mary for a second and come over to the other panel of the triptych, and I'll give you a long view, and it's a workman here. So let's look at the back here. I don't know what this is, whether this is a well or a place where they put somebody in a stockade, which I think, you know, is a little bit of a later, almost like a colonial thing. But once again, let's look out into the street. Looks like it actually might be cobbled, or, I mean, there seem to be lines in the street. You know, people, little shops, you know, the kind of little bit of, not quite a dome, but we're, you know, familiar, the cones here, and then the towers. And this looks to be like a 3-story, you know, look at it, it's like, you know, 3 stories and a little bit up over there. And, I mean, not bad for 2,000 years ago, huh, people? And so, and then, I mean, look, then we have, oh yeah, what's going on up here. I mean, look at this. You can see these allow for the windows to fall in here to close it off. There's this here. Look at the exquisite, you know, very, very good work. And now we'll get to the workman himself. Nice blue. I mean, the colors that they could get in their paints was from crushing gemstones and things like that was pretty amazing. So he's got himself some pretty nice looking tools. I mean, wood. And then they got that nice little band, like modern tools here, and nice little ceramic bowl to hold it. Look like screws to me, right? Don't those look like screws? Well, of course, it looks like they use screws. I mean, that looks a little screwed in there. Those look like screws. So he's over here making whatever he's making. You know, that looks like something that I saw when I was a kid. Actually, I actually had a similar kind of hand drill when I was younger, when you held the top and you spun the middle. This is a little, you know, little older kind of looking, but looks like it could get the job done. We'll come down here. Look at his clothes, beautiful. I mean, look at the hemming. Look at the hem. It's just like a modern hem on this. But look at those shoes. Look at them. Look at the point on those cowboy boots. But not that they're cowboy boots, but I mean, you know, yeah. I mean, I can't think of any country people's name right now, but they would probably love those boots. Look at the quality, you know, for a nice, you know, he's actually, you know, he obviously just wants a little hand axe that doesn't have too much heft, because he's cutting small stuff. We can see here, you know, he's kind of a fine woodworker. So these are the tools of the woodworker. I mean, look at the rendering. I mean, this guy even got the rings here. I mean, these artists were exquisite. And a lot of people say, you know, okay, well, you know, the artist, the reason he's just rendering his own time. Well, first of all, why not get it historically accurate? The skill of the artist is so astounding. Why make shit up, right? I mean, you know, really, you couldn't kind of conceive of a biblical concept. But okay, so we're going to get to the middle. So we see Mary, we see the angel, even the wings. I mean, the way they come out of the back here, very well rendered. And look at the fine brass pot over here. There's some little, here's a beam coming through, and some kind of little being with a cross across its shoulder coming in here. Then there's this little alcove. I mean, look at these fine, look at the fine bolts up on here, attached up here. Look at the woodwork. Okay, let's come across. All right, here's what I found particularly interesting. I am not that familiar with the various crests that we now have. You know, they're coats of arms, but there's a crest there and a crest there, kind of similar to chevron, and then you have the stripe and like the three things. I mean, there's coats of arms on the windows here. Exquisite work on these kind of multiple doors. Here's some lilies, kind of the colors of Israel, the white and the blue. Here's a candle, and then he even renders the squiggle of smoke there. Alright, we'll come down to Mary. She's sitting on a bench. She's reading a book. I wonder, I guess it couldn't be the New Testament yet, right? And even according to official history, there was, you know, there really was no Old Testament. I mean, there were, you know, various straight, but there were no compilations. There was just, you know, you could read, you know, you could read Enoch, or at those days, you could read Daniel. You know, they were a scripture, and usually on parchment or whatever, or parchments. But I mean, look at this, is some pretty nice looking bookmaking and beautiful. I mean, the modern. Never mind that this, you know, about this being Middle Ages. This is like fine for anything. This looks like a what they call, like, I guess, a Delft style, you know, thing. It's even got it's even got that kind of melted modern look. I mean, this is so anachronistic. It is mind blowing. The beautiful brass here of the candle. So here she is, and she's reading whatever she's reading. I mean, you know, it's getting, it looks kind of like Bible or something, but again, there's no Bible then. The Old Testament was a bunch of scriptures that hadn't been compiled. And then we see some interesting on each of the corners here. We see these little lions, and then we come down here. We see fine, really beautiful woodwork. Look at the floors. Look at the renderings of the floors. Look like, you know, better than the floors. I mean, these are not like maple. It looks almost like cherry wood or something. And you can even see the scuffing. I mean, the rendering here is just amazing. Look at the hem. Look at this hemming here on Mary's garment. All right. So And then, of course, so we have this, beautiful thing here. We got these lines, but this wouldn't be complete without looking at this fireplace. Okay, we'll get a little long view for a second. So first of all, let's get look it up here where this flute's in here. Look at this with this piece of fine cut, looks almost like a piece of iron, and got some bolts in it to hold up the ceiling. We have these two candle holders. This one is not there. This one here, we have a wax candle. Gee, would it really be smart to put a wax candle at a fireplace? Then we have this little guy here, and this, we got this. And now I'll do a long view. They seem as if they might have put as if smoke had run up here. But once again, there's no depth. I mean, her bench is right here. You can see the walls right there. And then this is wood. Here, let's take a close look. This is wood. You see? You can see the stripes of the wood. So this doesn't make very much sense in a really shallow fireplace. And then again, we have the little andirons that we see even in the big fancy mansions when we're looking at all those kind of old architecture, quote, slash Tartarian buildings. So when one takes a close look at what's going on here in the art and the detail of the artist, it's like, whoa, this is the Annunciation. And the updating, again, they say, oh, well, they're just rendering the old, the biblical times into medieval. Like I said, this doesn't look medieval. This looks like, I don't know, it's kind of hard. I mean, like a town in Europe or America. All right. So that's this one, and I think it's Caravaggio, but I'm just not sure. The next one, again, is purported to be Leonardo da Vinci, and this is a fairly interesting one. So, okay, so here's Mary again, and here's that angel bringing her the news, the Annunciation, and Mary's reading a book again, okay? And she's got a nice, really ornate, she's even got it's got gauzy veiling on it. Book stand. Apparently she liked to read a lot. Halo's intact. See, it's almost like, like there's like a circle, and you can, it's like a Tesla coil. And let's just look at this detail of this stonework. Now here, it's showing how fine this stonework is being rendered. I mean, look at the detail here and on this corner. All right, and then look at the table she's got here. All right, we got this kind of seashell motif. And these things here, but what's really interesting is there's almost like lion's feet at the bottom, or somebody's feet. I don't know, that's a lion's foot. Maybe it's a griffin's foot. But so I mean, beautiful detail. Long shot again. Okay. Now the background here is pretty interesting. Let's look at what's in the background here. Ooh, look at what Leonardo put in this here. Looks like all little lighthouse towers out of here and there, and typical. I mean, there's a little tower up there. I mean, it's not overly crowded, but it's pretty well developed, and very beautiful architecture. Once again, it's a little sparse, not like we're sometimes seeing, but this is nicely done, beautifully rendered mountains going off into the mist. So let's take another long look. So we have these trees. This is an interesting tree that right? Does it grow naturally, or did the tree doctor get that one? All right, so she's got lilies. Those are lilies. And all right, so then there's also this other tree here, right? That one is pretty odd, but who knows? There's all kinds of. But here's what I thought. Here's where I think is pretty funny what Leonardo did. See this cloud over here? Please take a look at the shape of that cloud. I mean, I almost wish I had some kind of UFO, one of those blurry UFO pictures. Here it is. Look at this. Okay, see that? Kind of big disc up in here, and I mean, you know, they're trying to be a little bit coy. They're trying to be a little bit coy, but I've seen other ones in the Annunciation. There's actually a clear UFO up in the sky with a beam shooting down into the room that Mary's in. I don't know what I did with it. I have one in my collection, but I didn't put it in this folder. But look at that. Okay, so we have a messenger telling Mary, the Holy Spirit's coming, and you're gonna get pregnant, even though you're a virgin who likes to read books. All right, and then over here we have that shape, and artists have to take a lot of time to render each detail, and Leonardo chose to put that kind of shape in the background. What do you make of it, people? What do you make of that one? I mean, look at how beautiful this is. I don't think we can see anything in there other than, oh, it looks like her bed is in there. So anyway, so this ends the two artworks of the Annunciation that I just, again, this is supposed to be 2,000 years ago, in I guess in Nazareth or some, Galilee, whatever. Galilee is looking okay, huh? So, all right, so on with some of the other stuff, and I'll just take it through. Oh, I don't even know where this is. It's one of the many things. Obviously, they're digging out from the mud, right? We can see they're digging out from mud. Very clear they're digging out from mud, and we see these kind of like almost, the arches where they could be a part of an aqueduct that broke. So I'm looking at all this, and then we see this tower. What really caught my eye is what's in the background over here. I don't know what these things are. The resolution isn't good, but it looks like these two huge buildings with almost like a walkway between them, and statues that look like griffins or dragons or something on top of each one. Once again, I don't know where this picture is taken, but look at this in the background. I mean, we're used to seeing astounding stuff in these pictures. This blew me away. I wish we could see the other one, but it looks like there's two of them because they both have the same top with this. This here, a nice long, take that long view. And of course, over here, what we're used to seeing, of course, is one of the capacitor cathedral type things. This here, but look at this. I mean, maybe there's a waterway here, and this is, they're kind of like the things you might see in a Hollywood movie or some fantasy movie with the huge, beyond big kinds of structures, like the two statues at the river. If you saw Lord of the Rings going towards Gondor, the Argonath, those two statues were called. And but this is on a scale that it just beggars it beggars the narrative. Doesn't beggar the imagination, but it certainly beggars the narrative. So that's kind of just started me. It was just like, look that in the background. I'm looking at them all. Obviously we always look here. We're kind of key to look for the towers and stuff. I wasn't ready until I said, what is that? And it's huge. It dominates. And then you got these things on top. Blown away. All right, next. All right, we're going to do some stuff looking at the bridge. Now, it really does appear that I don't know whether there were bridges already built, but it does appear that minimally that there were at least a tower on each side of the river that may have, who knows what they were used for. And I'm not saying there weren't bridges. There's, because I have a bunch of pictures of the various bridges crossing the East River. They're all coming out from Manhattan to Brooklyn or something, and they're really good resolution. So this is looking down from the top. It's like this is 1937. But look, I mean, so here's what I want to show. Like I was talking about the masonry. I'll have better pictures, but these are the two arches. Now, please, here's another thing I want you to remember, because there's going to be some pictures where I'm going to say, where are the arches? Or at least I wonder where. I mean, it could be the way the picture is. But so we have these beautiful, beautiful arches. Look at the top here. Let's look at how well this is done up here. I mean, even look, the stone, I mean, who's going to see it really up here? But no, the attention to detail is exquisite. Make sure, you know, these could be all part of what's going on underneath. But again, we see just the really beautiful, beautiful work on this part. When we get closer, there are certain things that look, I mean, obviously, you know, they have some pictures. They were doing something. You know, the modern people did something. The parasites did something with these bridges. I mean, obviously, turned them into bridges. But what was there before they began? I will posit that the basic structure, like with the pylons and all the way up to the towers, were already in existence when the official. The official narrative settlers came to New York. Don't forget, the Dutch were the first Europeans. You know, it was originally, this is now called New York. It was originally New Amsterdam. All right, here's another picture of the Brooklyn Bridge. And what's also interesting, we'll just go under the bridge here for a second and look at this building. As we're going to see, I'm going to there's some other pictures. There's going to be a few pictures of the Brooklyn Bridge. This looks to me like it might be a modern building, although again it could be. See, one of the things I notice about much of the old architecture, they really do their best to avoid right angles. Right angles are a toxic angle as far as organic. You know, I'm a licensed massage therapist, certified in medical massage therapy, and just generally a science geek. And there are no square cells. There are no square shapes in organic concepts. There's cubic type things, but no squares. And even the cubes that tend to be round, like the cube of a diamond. They're more rounded. And even so, I do notice that when some of the old architecture, when they occasionally might need to, you know, for whatever sake, to do kind of a right angle, they tend to soften it. And I think I see some of that here. Looks like whatever was here was removed. And then we see the rest of the boxes. Okay, let's get back to this here. Now, this is a relatively recent picture, as we can tell. So we'll just take a look at, you know, the fine, really exquisite. Well, can't get too close here because it'll fuzz out. But we see now, if you can, it looks to me that maybe they use a different stone here. But if you look at how well laid all of this stuff is, and once again, look at the joints. Anybody who does anything, you know what I'm talking about. It's where one stone meets the other and where the mortar is. And how little mortar one uses, or how closely laid the stones are. And when we not only do we see a different color here, but we start noticing that you see more mortar. In other words, inferior work, more modern work. And on here you can see it even better. I mean, you see this work, and then you see that work. Now, yes, they're different stones, and the original builders could have used it, but all of a sudden their technique failed them. I mean, these are rough stones, and they're still, you know, not perfect. There's no need to be perfect, but excellent. Like, this is excellent, and this is good at best. And then we get up to here again, and we start seeing that. Again, look at the joints here. You don't see any sloppy mortar like Caravaggio, if that's who the artist was, depicted in that picture of the Annunciation. Remember, I was pointing out holes in the bricks and things. You don't see any of that here. Even though they're not, you know, they're using like a different kind of a brick. Something seems to happen over here. The arches are exquisite. And then this comes up here, and it looks like me. Again, we got that kind of, I'm not sure. Alright, can't really call it. So there's that. And I think this is the Manhattan. This is Brooklyn, this is Manhattan Bridge. But let's keep on going along. So here's the Brooklyn Bridge again. Now here's a good case of what we can call, well, okay, we'll just call it the old culture Tartarian architecture. So look at these buildings here, right? See, so once again, see how nice and rounded? There's none of that real harsh right angle cutting in. And some of these other buildings around them, because if you notice, almost everything now is all square and cubes. The L-lights, people call them elites. Elites is just another word game. It's another part of the gobbling of language. They're L-ites, and it's shortened to elites. L, the God, their God L. And but you can tell this is clearly a modern building, and I think kind of what they did, and I'm not completely sure. I mean, there's enough intricacy, but again, it's still kind of very, you know, the materials are not all that aesthetic. So it would seem to me that part of it's like, we're going to leave these buildings up. Let's get some other, let's put some, you know, let's do our best to mimic the style. So these look like they fit in with them. So these do not stick out quite so sorely. This building over here is a little interesting, but even though it's stacked in that style, many right angles. Okay, I mean this one seems to be going out of its way to poke right angles in our eyes. There's right angle there, right angle there, right angle there, right angle there, right angle. I mean, again, and if you know sacred geometry, you would know a little bit. I do, so that's why I'm commenting on these things. If you don't, please trust my, you know, or please know that I wouldn't be just making things up. When I'm making things up, I'll tell you. And other times I'm speaking about my years of study. I'm 66 years of age. Been studying metaphysics. Began at 17. It's been a long time for me. This interest. So here we get a very good look here. Now, what I find interesting is, I don't know, this clearly, where it looked like some kind of iron inserts were in there once upon a time. We can see the rust. You can see it here. See it. I think that's the same thing, because we see some dark bricks, but that doesn't look like one of them. Here we can come in a little bit closer, and you can see the excellent work here. And then we get here, and for some reason clearly it's a different colored stone. They're arching up a little bit, but this doesn't look as sweet to me. Then we get back here. It looks good. Look at here, the fine detail in here. All right. There's that little, again, that iron will come up here. The juicy, gorgeous work. Look at these just exquisitely executed arches here. And then we come back up here. Okay, see this nice work. And then we come back up here, and we're, who knows? Okay, I don't want to be obsessive about it. But there we go. The Brooklyn Bridge. These buildings here, we'll come back to them just for a good look. I mean, look at how sweet all this is. So you get that rounding, and like I said, they did their best to copy here. I think this is a modern building. I think this is what we're going to call, the Tartarian building again. We're just going to, I want to use that as a catchphrase. We're still kind of busy defining that. But we see the typical thing, and kind of the tower. Of course, in the modern day, I'm quite sure they're using those for radio towers, unless they're using them for their original use. But I'm not sure about that. We don't know. We can. It's certainly a possibility. Then up here, the beautiful work and little bulb in the middle. all the portals for helping feed the energy back out into the environment. Look at these arches in here. And then we have the modern age stuff. Look at that. Oh, look, it's even got broken windows. You mean, you know, even this one too. Look at, you can see broken windows here. Unless those are reflections and I got it wrong. Maybe it just looks like broken windows. But it just looks like crap, right? Doesn't it look like crap? Look at this. Look at this. I mean, compare that to these. I mean, you can see there's a mimicry, but I mean, this looks like a Lego set, right? Lego, 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 big Lego, big Lego. Look at this. This is like a black, you know, black cube. Another black cube. And then I think this is the new World Trade Center or something. Right? Isn't that what this is? I haven't been in Manhattan for years, and I hope it stays that way. I mean, it actually smells bad. I go there and it smells like a dumpster. So there we go. Brooklyn Bridge. More now. See, there's the whole thing. We can kind of say, oh, it looks like it, but who knows? Maybe it could be modern. Now I'm going to move to some pictures where I'm going to say, busted. All right. Here we go. Brooklyn Plaza. Okay, this is for the Manhattan Bridge. Okay, so you can say, but here's where, to me, so we got this lithograph or whatever artist rendition, and here you got the Manhattan Bridge, and you know, to me, what busts that this was already here is this entryway here. Okay, obviously, this is all one. These, you know, we kind of see this here. And I just, you know, the lovely, you know, once again, they loved nature. That's why their buildings kind of resembled like the, you know, redwood trees almost. But here we have these two we're very familiar whose architecture this kind of stuff is, right? Right, these little arches and just beautiful. These might even be fountains, but I don't know. We don't know. And and then you have, so you can see here, this, you know, and these are electric rail. There's no cars on here. This, because basically there's horse and buggy. Look like there's a few modern, you know, Model Ts here. But you can see here come the, you know, here are the electric trolleys. Electric trolleys. So they, you know, basically this is this bridge, and then down here you can see the lower pathway here. See, everybody's going down there, but up here are the trolleys. And if we look over, so to me, I don't know whether you think, but I think this slide is telling us, yeah, this, you know, they had a nice causeway leading up to whatever that was, and yeah, so I'm calling this kind of busted number one. The other thing is, let's look at this. All right, we're kind of familiar, so we see the lovely ornate kind of, you know, lights. And what's here? What's this in the middle? Looks like an antenna. Like, in other words, what's going to power the lights? Well, whatever distant source is producing it. But this looks to me like this would be feeding these two, because what else would this be? Maybe someone else come up with the answer. And I think it should be also, it's interesting because we can look at a map of New York. So this is what, J Street, Nassau. What's, trying to see if I can, Nassau again, and Bridge Street. Okay, High Street. I'm just trying to get some things when we look at it. And this is Sands Court. All right. So it's also interesting to look at some of these buildings here. All right, because, you know, just they're all in a row. But the interesting thing is, like, these buildings here, right here. All right. They got the fire escapes on them. Interesting little things up here on the top. So let's look at some of these fronts just for a second. 1, 2, 3, 4 floors. Okay, so you got 4 floors, and here's the roof. So if we come across the roof, what are we coming to? Well, basically we're coming to the top window of this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Interesting openings over here. But so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is a 6-story building. And it's just a little, this seems like to me there's a little more room. Seems to me like they've allotted a little more room per floor for these buildings. Just a little more, not a huge amount. And even as we just look down here, let's, what did I see? Well, as you can see, kind of a doorway here, and it's big, you know, this seems like a real mishmash of things. But for the most part, you know, fairly uninteresting cubes for people to live in. And if this is the Manhattan Bridge, this would be the Brooklyn Bridge over here. Lots of smoke, since they gave up the or maybe this is the Brooklyn Bridge. You know, there are quite a few bridges across the East River, but we can see, look at some of these buildings in the back. All right, this is like I said, that's why in that other picture where I saw that massive structure, you know, kind of used to seeing this stuff in the background now. You know, we're kind of not quite a nerd to it, but you know, we're getting used to it. But when I saw that massive structure, I went, whoa. So anyway, so this is the Brooklyn Plaza of the Manhattan Bridge. All right. Now, as they always do, this is the Brooklyn Bridge schematic. It's not a plan. It's a picture. And it's interesting to see some of the detail that did not get onto the Brooklyn Bridge. When I was looking, I didn't quite see these little insignia that look almost like Freemason. Once again, what we see in the Tartarian buildings are the ancient mystery masons, those who built, who did architecture, knew about sacred geometry. And then you have the modern imposters, the Freemasons. Okay, they're trying to ride, the ancient and right and whatever. Again, all the modern people stole and just try to sit on the old stuff and then just pretend that that they are something or somebody. As we saw, most of this kind of work got in there, but it's a little bit different. And let's see if we look a little closer. Doesn't look quite so Masonic, but from a distance it does. And then also these little type of towers didn't seem to make it. And of course they always put their flags there. But I mean, the schematic. I mean, there's if you look close, they give you some measurements here, and then they'll give you this here. But I mean, like, really now, it's like somebody measured it and trying to make it look official. 1600 foot span, civil engineer, 1867, designed by, he designed the picture. I mean, what, you going to hand this off to an architect? What's an architect going to do with this? This is not a blueprint. This is, this is a picture. All right. So this is the construction of the construction of the bridge, Brooklyn Bridge, circa 1872, 1887, and they all say basically that. So there's no span there. So again, but not only that, where's the construction? And if this is just going up, this doesn't look fresh, does it, ladies and gentlemen? Does this look like it's a fresh? And remember, I was saying, remember those arches, okay? I don't know. I mean, here it is. What are they going to do? Put the arches in later, or is it just like at this angle? It's a little bit difficult to see it, and that's very possible. And there could be some scaffolding on it, but you would think, I mean, again, we're not looking at it straight, like perpendicular. We have a little bit of, we got a little bit of an angle coming in. You think you might be able to make out just a hint of one of those arches. I don't know. they're probably there, but it's just who knows. So we got all these kind of schooners and stuff, but I mean, there's where's where are the cranes, and you see what's going on here. We know bullshit's going on, and then the whole thing is where is there actually, there's always some threads of truth. You can't create complete nonsense. There has to be a few threads that actually have are in reality. So I know that the modern people built something associated with the bridge, and like I said, they might have. Looks like they did build the way people got across the bridge. Was there one before and it got demolished? Was it never there and these had some other kind of purpose? But this doesn't, if this is fresh construction, I mean, this does not look like fresh construction at all. Not to me. Okay. This is a good one. This one is really good. Now this is by Curry and Ives. So we'll look at, and again, the other thing that you can all, I mean, when you go to Wikipedia, no matter what it is, they'll always tell you what the damage costs, what this costs. If you're looking up a building, they have more records on who bought what and paid how much per square foot than they do actual detail. They always have this part down because that's how the money changes are. That's how the parasites are. This is all that matters to them. They fake it because this is the only thing that fucking matters to them. Of course, making our lives miserable too. But the money, I mean, look at Wiki. I mean, again, you look up some buildings like some of the, you look, we see the nonsense stories, but you'll have like, for the building was there and it's sold for so many square feet, and then they sold it for this and there's so many square feet. It's always about the business. It's always doing business. It's very inhuman. So anyway, construction commenced January 1870, completed May 1883. Estimated total cost $15 million. Okay. So, before we take a look at this rendering, well, let's start on this side of the river. Look at this, right? There we go, the portals for letting the energy out, and of course light in. The kind of the grid, and once again the typical, as we're now calling it, Antiquitech. Alright, so that's on this side, and then we come down. I mean, we ask for more of a cube. Alright, so there's that. Lovely, I mean, beautiful boats. We have lots, we have lots of steamboats here at the time. Look like they're quite lovely too. And again, more schooners. Now let's get across the other side of the bridge, and what do we see? Well, we see a tower. We see a domy cathedral cathode kind of a thing. Another tower. A kind of a steeply kind of tower. What's over here? Oh, it looks, like what we see. Anything more over here? Let's take a long look. Okay, and so then we have this bridge, and again, those little knobby things that was in the schematic didn't make it, and those little kind of masonry things are not there, or removed, one or the other, and there we go. But look at this skyline here. That's very, that one, that one, that one, that one. I'm not sure what's in the back. This little cluster, that steeply kind of thing. This group here, they look like they were cranking. They were there. The old culture was there, and I think we're going to start making some kind of Dutch, and don't forget that the Germans call Germany is Deutschland. Sprechen Sie Deutsch means do you speak German, not Dutch. So And then if you again, there's a lot of things about, you know, the old German kingdoms and who the Prussians were, and the Prussian history is one of parasitism. And it seemed like the Prussians eventually became what was Germany, and I think that the Deutsch became the Dutch, and just kept on moving as far as they could, ended up on the edge of the Atlantic Ocean. And we'll see some pictures that might help as I'm staying here. I think I'm going to maybe get some, you know, backup from some of the things I'll show you. And then they crossed the Atlantic and got to New Amsterdam, and there was Australia was originally New Holland. Tasmania was known as Van Diemen's Island. Of course, this guy Tasman went and saw it and named it for himself, because any you know, they were out for the Queen, so you just name things for the Queen. Cook sailed past the eastern coast of Australia and called it New South Wales, and started loading up the garbage that they didn't want. Well, actually, probably maybe the Tartarians. I mean, who knows? We all know that Australia initially claims to be a penal colony. When, you know, who knows? But it was New Holland, and Tasmania was known as Van Diemen's Island, or Diamonds, D-I-E-M-O-N apostrophe S, or was it A-N? O-N or A-N. And then New Zealand, well, we might, you know, we're going to get there. We're going to see a little bit more about Z. So this is the Great East River Suspension Bridge. The view from Brooklyn, looking west. So if this is Brooklyn, this is Manhattan. Okay, we'll probably get some more Brooklyn Bridge. This is another place in Manhattan, a place I've actually been in this place. This is the Cloisters at Fort Tryon Park. And Fort Tryon Park is on about, you know, kind of, it's on the west coast, on the west side along the Hudson River on Manhattan. And so I was looking at this because I remember it, but you know, there's just certain, like there's mimicry. Now this looks, I mean, again, the botanical parks are clearly part of the old culture. They love their beauty. But I wonder what kind of shape was found, because when I look over here, I see some signs that are not, that look like this is more a little old. I mean, I think there are some things where you can see more of detail here. There's some pretty ghoulish stuff, not like the odd art that we see on the old culture Tartarian buildings, but you know, stuff that you know is not savory, like, you know, those things where, you know, you have things eating children and other creepy things, the parasitic culture. But even when I look here, I mean, look at these things. This is not, look how either this stuff was maybe transported or whatever. This is not their, if this is their work, somebody beat the shit out of it before they put it back up. I mean, there's no, they're slightly different. Even the tops are all different. You know, it's, and oh yeah, I mean, look, I mean, this is just a little odd. It's not, who knows? I mean, this could be original, but this just looks a little bit. You know, the old culture went in for some wild stuff, including, you know, the pan and nature stuff, because nature was very inspiring to them. But and we see in the statuary all over their buildings, but it's usually not creepy. As a matter of fact, basically it isn't creepy. And when we kind of examine some of the work here, I mean, look at how thick the mortar is. I mean, when you see thick mortar joints like that, that's because you don't have a skilled mason. They pile on the mortar and they fit the stones together. A good mason uses as little mortar as possible, because the mortar is the weak part. The less mortar you have, the stronger the structure will be. So this is Fort Tryon Park, and we'll see some. I mean, there's definitely some signs of parasitism. Okay, so remember, I wanted to remember some of the names from this. So this is an old map. Do I have a date on here? Encyclopedia Britannica, 9th edition. So they have elevated railroad routes and stations. And they have streetcar routes. Let me see if I can. Do I have a date here yet? Central Park is here. I don't know. But it's obviously, oh yeah, 1885. Downtown New York City, New York, 1885. And what did they say that the Curry Ives, when was the Brooklyn Bridge was completed? When? It was in 1883. So this, supposedly this map here now is 2 years after that was completed. So let's come down here and see what we see. So let's get ourselves kind of oriented, and I'm pretty sure, okay, this is Brooklyn, here's Manhattan. Alright, this is Queens, and if this is, here's the Hudson River, so this is New Jersey, there's Hoboken, okay, and then they have a little insert for Central Park. So Central Park, they already have the reservoir, another reservoir, the lake. I've been in, I mean, I grew up in New York City, so I've been in this place many a time. I was a messenger in New York City too. I've walked through it. Here's 59th Street, which is now all got huge buildings that overlook the park. If you go to the north of the park, up here, 110th Street, this is now, it used to be Harlem, but it's become gentrified. Oh, it even says here, Harlem Lake. Harlem comes from the Dutch. And here's Weehawken, New Jersey. So, look at all the nice, how many nice piers are already here. And the old culture is known for their canals, their land reclamation, and their piers, because they were a mercantile. They were science and art and mercantile. And look at all the endless piers here. Okay? Piers. I mean, look at how, and well done. Okay. So anyway, to get back to the long thing. So anyway, here's Brooklyn. So, this is 2 years after the making of the Brooklyn Bridge. Oh, here's Brooklyn here. This is Queens. So 2 years after the Brooklyn Bridge is done, right? Okay, so let's come in and look at the Brooklyn Bridge. It says Suspension Bridge. Okay, so we have a bridge here, but is when we saw, there's also, I don't forget when the Manhattan Bridge went up, but we can see all these docks. But it says Suspension Bridge, and what's running? I guess this is one of their electrified cars are running across. And I do believe this is where we saw that little plaza. Yeah, remember Sands Court? Remember we were identifying on Nassau Street? Remember I said let's look at the streets? Sands Court was here, remember? And so this is where the rails came down, and this is where those two arches were. So should be the Brooklyn Bridge, but and they have everything else named around here: Brazil line, Italian line, Bordeaux line. But this is now just called the Suspension Bridge, and you'd think they would, show you those massive things there. Once it's really kind of strange. So of course, what do we find? Governor's Island, and what's on Governor's Island? A star fort. They're not showing, there's a star forts on so many of these small islands because this is what the Dutch excelled at. Alright, so there's one there, and of course, here's Bedloes, which is where the Statue of Liberty is, with that, something we're now familiar with, and we'll be looking at the Statue of Liberty later. Apparently there's a Fort Gibson on Ellis Island. Chances are this is some kind of Tartarian building or something instead of a star fort. So anyway, so I just found this really kind of interesting, this old map. There's the Bowling Green, Battery Park, City Hall. And we've seen those buildings in downtown New York and what they look like. Okay, next. Yeah, hi Martin. So this was really interesting. Fancy Lights is what I named it. So it's interesting. We got this here. This building is looking a little worse for the wear. I guess mud floods will do that to you. But we can see what's left. It seems like not everything is really complete there, but we can see the portals. We can see the little, always those ways for air to pass through, which I claim is not only to allow better just general ambient electron, but also to create vortices. And then you can see these little things with these kind of shiny tops. And I wish I had saved it. Somebody showed what putting mercury, coating mercury or putting mercury in thing does for reception. In one case, it was the reception of a radio frequency. This guy was out in the middle of nowhere. It was in Russia, and this guy built him an antenna that he put some mercury, that he used some mercury with, like from a couple of thermometers. And the guy not only had a clear picture, he was getting cable TV stations, and I mean, he was picking up like the world. And he was sitting out at the edge of a field in the woods with a TV with this antenna this guy built him. It was amazing. If you could, like mercury, what mercury does. And then another guy, it just said that, like small amounts. I don't know whether he smeared like a little bit of mercury on the bottom of some bulbs, but these bulbs were lighting without even being plugged in. So mercury is like some kind of supercharger as a receiver. So it seems that mercury is more of a receiver, so where it takes the most subtle of waves and like seems to amplify them. So these, I would contend that these shiny things have some mercury in them. And from what I saw from these demonstrations, you don't need a lot. If this thing is filled with mercury, this thing is potent. And then the other thing I noticed with this, of course, look at the building. We're here on the corner, no right angles. You wouldn't jut a right angle out into the corner if you know sacred science and you actually love humans rather than hate them, because you actually belong to some other weird alien species or related somewhere, and you just really hate the human race, and you hate this planet, this plane, this Earth as well. If some of you, again, I'm talking to a broad audience. We all live on the earth, and I think enough is said about that. Let's take it back, be free on, and get rid of the fucking parasites. So anyway, what do we see on this one? The double-headed, everybody's calling an eagle. Now, I also have studied zoology. I am a science geek, all right? And I'm also a metaphysician. So everybody's heard of the phoenix bird, but there's also another bird that's kind of like known as the ben bird, and it's similar to the phoenix. And it's interesting, you have ben, you have the same name twice. And so there's been some suppositions that this was because of where Tartary was, or the people who kind of started with the symbol. They were kind of in the middle of that huge landmass they're covered, and so this is basically looking east and west is what this really, and this is really the phoenix, the constantly being reborn, but in this case looking two ways. I mean, originally conceived, I think it was quite, it was actually an alchemical symbol, a metaphysical, sacred kind of symbol. And then when the parasites took over, first they turned it from a bird that didn't have any feeding habits, because it was kind of a mythological bird, the ben bird and the phoenix bird. The phoenix bird is basically known for burning in its own ashes and arising anew. And then all of a sudden, but then it very clearly gets depicted as a bird of prey. When do I think it started becoming depicted as an obvious bird of prey? When the predators took over is when. So when I look at this, I don't see an eagle there. I see, once again, something akin to a phoenix, or what was known as the ben bird. And this is very clear. Once again, we clearly see this. This is kind of like wherever this is, and I don't know where it is, but and that doesn't look like necessarily English to me, but it could be. But and the other thing is, like, okay, here's what I found. So we have this bridge here. We can see that, this is obviously the old culture stuff, all right? At least this part of it is. and then you look down to here. Look, I mean, you have this splendor here, and then you have this monkey building here. Okay, there. I mean, when you realize that this is what we were, and this is what we were calling progress at the time, it's a sad testament to the truth. All right, this is also Fort Tryon Park. This is very interesting. It's just, and this is the Hudson River right over here. And we just see a nice walkway, and this is kind of interesting here, because to me it's hard to tell. That it looks to me this was originally built. The inside looks really, really good. Some of this stuff looks like modern. Not that I'm going to hang here too long. I mean, this wall here is a disgrace. This one here, the lower one. I mean, look at that. I mean, basically somebody just threw a bunch of rocks fairly skillfully together and used a mortar to hold it up. Without the mortar, a stumbling drunk would knock it over. What is this on the wall here? I can't quite make out what that is. But I think it's important. Anyway, on with this one. Not much. Okay, somebody put the real Sphinx. But when you're getting into the griffins and things like that, and also that the feminine is all over their art. Obviously, men were doing some work, but I see lots of pictures with women with trowels. I mean, there was a reason why when we read, once upon a time there was a matriarchy. Now that's what it was, woman centered, because they were so good at organizing things. But we all worked together. The patriarchy likes to say, it was matriarchal, because they want to scare the men. You better let us predators stay there, or the women will be telling you what to do. And not even in the guarded ways they do it now. But anyway, this is really quite lovely. I mean, look at how well plated the braids are. Very respectful rendering of the breasts. Lovely face, really nice hair. Very interesting there. Okay. I just got found. Actually, I'm on Minds.com, and now this does not have the greatest resolution, which makes me a little bit sad, because I have to. I want to blow it up to show a few things. Now, this is an interesting. There's a lot of mixed signals in here for me. So, So anyway, so they kind of have some of the cities here. I'm going to get some close up in this. Superimposed on this island, I guess, is the Dutch Republic, or Holland. This is not the Netherlands, which was further south. So you have the different. Now, one of the things I was looking for, which makes it a little suspect, Holland was, a star fort central. There are no star forts, at least on here. We would be, we're very familiar with them. And again, I apologize for the poor resolution here. This is the best I could get. But here's where we're going to see some interesting things. I don't speak Dutch, but Dutch is not that far off from English. So it says D or de Noord Zee. So that I would think, because knowing where they are, they're by the North Sea. So I would think that might be the North Sea. And so rather than sea, they're saying Z. Zeeland. The land by the sea. And then when you have Old Zealand, well, you're going to need a New Zealand. But and then, so what's interesting, and I'm making kind of that Dutch-German connection. Mare, sea, Germaniki, so, right? Does that look like German to you? And pars means kind of belonging to, or whatever. If you'll see a lot on the old maps, that word, you'll see that pars a lot. I looked it up and it says like kind of pertaining to, or part of, a parcel. But this, so one says the North Sea, and the other one is kind of saying the German Sea, or the sea that belongs to Germany. Over here, we see Zwi der Z. Don't know, but there's that Z again. There's two Z. We've seen this, Z here, Z there. All right, now, like I said, this is one of the things I do like. So this lion is carrying a sword. All right, and I'm not the biggest fan of swords, but here, again, you see this bird, and she's got that kind of that little beak. This is kind of like what I'm talking about, the Ben bird. So had a slightly shorter beak than the phoenix bird. And the vulture is also in the same category, but the vulture doesn't kill. And the vulture was the sacred bird of the Egyptian pharaohs. I forget who, the north and the south, actually upper and lower, and upper Egypt is south and lower Egypt is north, where where the Nile empties into the Mediterranean. So it says patria, patria, we know what that means, father. But so anyway, this is Holland. So what I do really like, and this shows how that this is the old culture, is let's look at these people. There isn't a weapon depicted among these civilized people, because these were they were into arts, sciences, and mercantilism. Nobody has an army unless you have to fend off assholes who can't do anything except steal, and they need weapons to steal your shit. So when you don't have a bunch of parasites around, nobody needs weapons. I mean, the guy's got a pitchfork. Somebody gets a little jiggy with you, you point it in the business direction. Go, come on, back off, dude. We're just saying, or you're going to get hurt. So just go find another place to drink. Leave me the fuck alone. Anyway, by the way, I only speak to adults, and if my language offends anyone, I'm not a potty mouth. But when I get a little plugged in, I allow myself to speak like an adult, because I'm 66 years of age, and I don't, I love people of all ages, but I'm speaking to my peers. So anyway, it says Nobile Holland, and again, these were the Aria, not the Aryans, because that's loaded. Aria is about the nobles, the ones who had the knowledge, who had good genetics and were willing to share. They were noble with what they had. They would teach, they would share. So we see a little antiquitech over here. Looks like somebody's doing a little dating on the side. There's a lion again. Once again, not a weapon. Now look at these things. They got sails on them, they got wheels on them, and they're buggying around on the beach with them. I thought that was really cool. Beach buggies. Because anybody's been on the beach knows there's usually some kind of breeze going there because of the difference between what's going on with the ocean and what's going on with the land, and they're taking advantage of it. And of course, they could sail the seas, and apparently they were sailing the beaches too. And then, kind of typical Dutch type of stuff, and they got the buckets. Interestingly enough, though, as I'm looking here, all right, look at the footwear. I'm not seeing any of those wooden shoes here, for some reason. Everybody looks like they have some pretty good footwear, and that didn't come from a tree. Relatively humble boat, but very well done. And then they have like some of the cities, and so let's take a look at some of the cities. We have Dordrecht, and of course, everything is about the water, because there they are on the North Sea, Dordrecht, and look at that skyline. All right, and then it says Agricola Hollandia Australia. Not sure what all that means. Agricola, I think it was someone's name, but I'm not saying I'm right. I think I'm wrong. We know what Hollandia is. Or in Australia? So are they showing us what they had built when they were down in New Holland? Don't know. But, or unless this means Holland South. Very possible, right? So, but look at that skyline. Look at Delft. We've Delft is I think is a form of fine ceramic, and again we see typical old culture skylines with the fine towers, because they got to go up there because that's where the energy is best collected, because it's like 100 volts per meter, and then you have, and that's just volts with not necessarily any high amperage. Voltage can be turned into current, which is amperage. So if you really want to get a few amps out of your voltage, you're going to need a bunch of voltage to cram down into the amperage. I'm just starting my more deeper electrical studies, so maybe in the future I can do a little better with the commentary. So here's Amsterdam with a very fine skyline, and here's Rotterdam, fine, and Alkmaar, Enkhuizen, and then of course I have all these different, you know, crests and whatever, kind of like, remember that Annunciation picture where in the windows there was like 2 of these type things? It'd be interesting if we see one of them here. I don't see any of them, any of the one. I kind of have in my mind's eye what we saw, and again, I wish I could read this, but I just don't. The resolution of the original photo is just not good enough to do that. Here's some more coats of arms, and some more coats of arms. Now, one of those, remember that, if you remember that window, one of them was, you know, this was not the color scheme, but it had the bar, 2 on the top, 1, right? If you remember that window, one of them had this kind of, you know, formatting of the bar, the 2 and the 1. I'm not sure what this creature is, but because it's not a very good resolution, but there's a few lions along the way. This doesn't look like your typical lion, not saying it's not. This is interesting, this kind of wheel. There's the double-headed Ben bird, or if you want to call him an eagle. No, I'm gonna stop. And another motif that I've seen in some of the early money in the United States is the anchor. And I don't know if that's for their or also just because they're mercantile, but or for a specific family that was big on there. So let's go to the top and see what this is, because the other one was Australia. Ah, yes, I got it. Okay, now it's obvious, because Borealis means north. So that was South Holland. This is North Holland. Remember I said Harlem? There's that word. There it is, Harlem. They're spelling it different. Sometimes it's with 2 A's, but that's Harlem. And as we can see, plenty going on there. Leiden. Now this one, the Leiden, and if we look closely, okay, we see the Antiquitech. Look at the, like, kind of. I mean, I'll go out small because I can only go so big. But if you look at this one, you can see the swirl of kind of the plasmic energy going around here. Same thing here in Dergo. See, if you look here, I mean, it's, you know, it's gonna mud out on me. But if you even look from the distance, you can see it here. You can see that kind of, you know, this like kind of like a halo, you know, but it's like kind of an active one, and it's there, and it looks like a little bit there. Den Breel, and again the same. Hoorn and Tof, the Holland. But here's the other thing. So anyway, I found this was a really interesting. Even this guy. He has like this kind of hook that you use for boats or, you know, fish or whatever. And then we have some more crests and stuff up in here. But I thought this was a fairly interesting thing. I wish if I read more Latin I would know. And then, of course, this looks to me like the Hebrew for Yahweh, or the Tetragrammaton, as some people call it. Comitatus Hollandia. And oh yeah, 1648. There's the date, and of course that could be I-648, but the resolution doesn't allow for it. Anno, whatever, either 1698 or I-698. Illuminated Moscow from 1836. This supposedly was for the coronation of Tower of Ivan. Illuminated for, I think it was for his coronation. So apparently, this, you know, but we can see it, but we see all the little. I mean, it's not, you know, it's a little more subdued, but it's certainly sufficient for the artist to render this at what looks to be at nighttime. And you can see there's like kind of some nice little lights here. There's a bunch going on. This big dome is, you know, got all lit up like we see on the Coney Island pictures and all the rest of them stuff. And then up here, so this is Moscow, okay? And here's Jerusalem. And the work of Anatoly Fomenko, I'm not going to get into it because it'll just run too long. But not in this one. We'll get at some point. Probably it should be discussed because there is some really good stuff there. Some stuff that can really help us, I believe, decode what we're trying to do here. But here's Moscow proper. I guess over here you can see the city, the little thing for a city. But over here, Jerusalem. Of course, they didn't have a J back then, so they're using the I. But there it is, and it's really interesting how, you know, when the people in the Old Testament were moving into the Holy Land, wherever that is. I mean, once again, we think we know, but the narratives of all of these things, I feel, can get a little bit wonky. And to me, there's no halos on any books. And the interesting when they, you know, Jerusalem is, you know, the lower part of what is now Israel. I mean, we should be clear. You know, Israel was what Jacob changed his name to. He had you know, 12 or 13 sons, however you want to count them, and basically, except for, you know, when Saul united the two kingdoms of Judah and Israel together and made them a collective Israel, and then David basically stole the throne from Saul, and then Solomon took over from David, and after Solomon died, the kingdoms parted ways. And so for basically it was the reign of 3 kings, and Saul, I think, had a reign of, I don't know, 2 weeks or something before David got rid of him. But prior to that, there was the kingdom of Judah, and there was the kingdom of Israel, and after 2.1 kingships, they went back to being 2 kingdoms again. So Jerusalem is in Judah. The kingdom of Judah is where Jerusalem was. And now there's a modern state called Israel, and encompassing where the kingdom of Israel and kingdom of Judah were together, and temporarily were, like I said, you know, for 2.11 regal times, they were, you know, the same. They were one Israel. But here's Jerusalem. Here's another Jerusalem. As we see, there are these certain kinds of names that get around. And, of course, okay, so when the Israelis were entering, these Israelites were entering their promised land, they had a giant problem. And it seems like everybody except them were giants. So, you know, some of the things we're starting to figure out, and it's like, and then you got, you know, something, I don't want to be too controversial, but I consider it stimulating some interesting thoughts. All right, this is the Brooklyn Bridge, like right down. Now I'm not sure where this is because most of them are in the water or something, but you can really see the original kind of stonework here. This is fairly good risk. Now again, what I'm talking about is how good the joints were. You don't see lots of mortar. I mean, you almost have to look. I mean, you can kind of see with them, but you don't see mortar pouring out. And then there obviously was something in here once upon a time. Now when we get here, see the stone is very rough, and all of a sudden we get down here, and we can see there's some modern work. See how smooth that is? And look at the amount of mortar. See how thick that joint is there too? Now look at, they're using these rough stones. They don't have joint. They don't have to put in that much mortar. And then kind of breaks, and then over here we go. It looks to me like we go back down to the original stuff. And again, you see that really good cuts. Look over here. I mean, look how nice these cuts are. There's this one little seam in here. I don't know whether it's covering something, that they put it over some kind of notch, because you can see, look at the amount of mortar. Look, it's cracking over here. I mean, they're doing it. I mean, this is not, it's really interesting. You would look at this work, oh, it's pretty good. I mean, it's holding up, it's holding all that way. Yeah, man, good mess. Until you see how real masons, the ones who knew the ancient mysteries and the ancient secrets, and I'm not talking about the modern imposters that call themselves Freemasons. I mean, they are Freemasons, they're just not Masons. And I'm a master Mason. I mean, clear disclosure, I joined the Masons for a while, left in 2010, and I left as a master Mason. And I keep my word with, and they were honorable men, so you won't give it out. There's nothing you can't learn on the web or buy Duncan's Freemasonry and learn everything. But you won't hear it from me because I gave my word not to do it. So I'm a man of my word. But look at how bad these joints are. Look at this. I mean, compared to when somebody shows you how it's, you can think you're really good at something until somebody shows you how it's really done. And right here you can see how it's really done, and here you can see when you're trying and you're doing it pretty good. You're doing well. This is not junk. This is actually fairly good. But I mean, you can see the difference in the quality. It's really amazing. And it's interesting. They seem to have put a flare in here, but meanwhile the original thing is there. So who knows? But I just found that to be an interesting study in real masonry and modern, I don't know, bricklaying, whatever, stonework. Remember I said we're gonna bust their nonsense story a few times, all right? Supposedly these buildings were, okay. We do know the signature of the old culture, don't we? So this is an entrance to the Manhattan Bridge. So with the Brooklyn Bridge, we saw the Brooklyn side and those two kind of little mini Arc de Triomphes or whatever. But here, this is a different thing, and let's take a look and see whether it's the real deal or not. So yeah, that's looking pretty good. That's an interesting kind of face there, but it doesn't look like the fine detail of the original work either. I tell you, it looks once again. I mean, they were trying to claim this for their own. Who knows if they didn't do a little, doggy work, peeing on it. I can't. The detail's not that good, but this tends to look a little. This looks. I'm not sure about this stuff. This here looks like their work to me. That's a really sweet arch there. That's really well done. Let's take a look at up here. I mean, these look like lion faces. There's that tricky period where there's still enough of the old crew there, but they're under the new creeps, and they still got some skills, but they're not inspired anymore. But to me, seeing this kind of entryway to something that's modern looks to me like busted. Here we go. Manhattan Bridge construction, 1909. So what do we see? Well, the Catherine Ferry. Now let's look at some of the architecture here. Oh, that little fine. See these little iron griddlings? I do believe they help to attract charge for the main thing. or else attract it and then broach. You know, I haven't got the whole physics. I'm still working on trying to get that stuff figured out. But this looks like something that might have been there. You know, you can see the sweet architecture. Looks to me like these. I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe those windows are still there and they're just kind of grubby because nobody's taking care of them anymore. This building here. What does that look like? Yeah. Alright, so let's get the long shot again. Let's go across the river. Let's take a little look. That's the whole, these are the big things that, that's what we were looking at before. I guess, you know, they were holding the, they're on the land to kind of hold that side, and then you got the suspension bridge. Now it is very interesting. Again, we're seeing the construction, and the towers are completely built. I mean, these towers are done. So let's take a look at the, you know, this is a modern construction, right? So, looks like pretty good work. Matter of fact, it looks like it might have been around for a little bit already. Gee, I don't know. I mean, kind of that Eiffel Tower type of construction here. I mean, they're clearly building the part that everybody's going to cross on. But let's see how. Yeah, definitely this is all finished, and obviously you'd have to finish the towers. But gee, you think, you know, you think we could have seen, like, you know, a little bit of the tower building? I haven't seen any pictures of like any of the crossings without these parts already there. I haven't seen any of these half finished. I haven't seen a single picture of any of these that were not at their full height when we're getting pictures, and the new people are doing something with them. Houses here. Yeah. All right, here's what this is the same bridge, okay? Manhattan Bridge from Washington Street. Now, so this you got, you know, photographers are really cool. They framed the Empire State Building, which has a plaque that's still there. I guess it's an aluminum plaque, and it makes a claim that you see. They don't use the word electricity, or do they? But it's the last time I know, it was still in the lobby of the Empire State Building, and basically it was talking about Massachusetts and I mean a whole, like 5 different states, and you would see like these electric bolts going to them. So it seemed that this was supposed to be the ability to transmit that energy, and it seemed that these bridges, especially this bridge, had something to do with it. Oh well. Let's take a look at the top of the bridge. Oh, gee. Wow. Interesting, folks, huh? That supposedly the Manhattan Bridge had something to do with this, and somebody just happened to set up this picture with the Empire State Building. I mean, let's look at the framing. That basically it's in the center of the picture, you know. And then we look at the top of these towers, and we see, I mean, you can see that there's some line running to here, but, you know, they decided to put some ornamentation. Yeah, I mean, look at this. That's some pretty fine work up there. Where is it? This is Mexico. I don't know where in Mexico, but it's Mexico. It's one of their many plazas. And look at the busyness here. Huh? I don't know if that's, we don't know if that's a statue or a big fella. But I mean, look at, you got this big thing here, and you got those, and this one here, another one there. Of course, here's the water. There's the canal. Got to have the water, because that's where you get, that's where you really can get many more negative ions. And negative ions are, you know, are in the electron family, and it's the flow of electrons that we know as electricity. Matter of fact, that flow is what we call current. And I mean, look at that. And then coming to here, oh, I mean, this architecture is, and this is Mexico. That's a terrible picture. Where's this? Now this is the new, this is the new East River Bridge. This is one of the, I think there's like 3 bridges there, okay? So this is kind of interesting. All right, so this, I don't know what side this is, from Brooklyn. Okay, this is the Brooklyn side. So let's look at a few things. First of all, let's kind of just like look at the street light here. Unfortunately, this is very good resolution. So here's the street light. All right, we can see it. They're feeding a little thing. Interesting street light. But over here on the other side, okay, let's look at it from the bottom. We can see it's been there for a while. Been there for a while. Whoop! Nothing there. So we have all this. We have this cut stone. Of course, you know. Remember, they're supposedly constructing the bridge, and we can see it's hasn't got a roadway yet. What I found interesting was this building here, and I don't know. I mean, it looks right now. I mean, you're up here. There's the river. I don't know whether this is a mud flutter or not, but what I do see is it's abandoned. I mean, the roof. See, the roof is all crapped out here. I mean, you know, this is. I don't know if they had the date here, but I mean, this is, I guess, in the early 1900s. I mean, it's the early 1900s. They're in the New World, and this already looks like a ruin. You know, see that? Boom, there's some junk. We come over here, see a little bit, it's all broken down there. Plastered up with modern junk. This is boarded up. Pretty good brickwork. And of course, these doors, and it looks like there's been some kind of work here. In fact, I think I saw that on the other side. Yeah, look over here. But so I'm gonna come out a little bit more. Now, all right. So we got all this rock here. Some seems to be fine cut, and they're all different kinds of shapes. But let's start looking at this bridge. Okay, this is right. They're supposedly just building it. Alright, so let's get down here where it begins. Now this stone, look at the beauty of that stonework. Now here we go, we're starting. Now, don't forget, this is new construction here. New construction. That metal looks like it's been, folks, do you think? Does that metal look like it might have been there for a little while? Huh? Or did they just treat it harshly when they were putting it up? Okay, so here's what's interesting. Here, again, this magnificent, you know, thing on, you know, like on the level of the Eiffel Tower. And then, so, you know, they're obviously they're working on it, and you see every bit of what is obvious, what they're doing, you know, in their real time, is such monkey work. It is embarrassing to think that you know, I mean, again, I mean, compare to realize it's one thing. Yes, they're capable, but when you look at what happened came before, and then you see these attempts to pretend, and it's the pretending. If somebody can't, if a person can't do something, there's no shame in not being able to do something. Anybody can learn. To pretend that one is what they are not. That turns my stomach. And so here, let's look at, okay, this is looking like it's been around a while. That's just my uneducated opinion as far as being an engineer, all right? But all of a sudden, let's take the longer look here, okay? See this here? Sitting on this? This looks, see, now look at the color of that. That looks like it's you know, had a little less time in the weather than that other part. Okay, but what really cracks me up is, okay, so they're supposedly building this. Now let's get on top of the towers and look at what is happening on top of the towers. First of all, they got these little things here. You would think, you know, maybe to have a bigger crane to get stuff up, but look at the woodwork. Look at these work platforms. You know, okay, they're just temporary, but I mean, I don't know. I don't even want to use words for what this looks like. And I'm not sure what's going on with this stuff here. Just like kind of, you know, this scaffolding. I mean, it looks like it would be used to walk on. Yeah. And then you know, you have all on these sides. You have like these kind of, you know, we can get a better look at them over here. But it looks like this looks like it's actually something that was there and is falling apart to me. And then actually, if you kind of get up here and you know, looks like, you know, I mean, and then you have, here's this goofy, I mean, I'm quite sure it's good for, you know, pulling up, you know, maybe 1,000 pounds or something. But I mean, we're building a bridge and they're up. I don't know. Again, I'm not an engineer. Maybe I'm just too ignorant in that regard to give responsible commentary. And so I'm the monkey, but I'll keep on gibbering, because at least I make sense to myself. So again, look at the color of that, right? We're looking at the color of this, and then all of a sudden, bang! Very different. But it does, I'm not saying anything wrong with the work, but these things here, it's like, what is this? What is all of this stuff? And why does it appear to be in disrepair? Why does this not appear to be something that's going up, but something that's falling down? You know, was this part of the original structure, and how people maybe crossed the bridge, and that's why there's nothing here, because this was how they're doing it, and this little, you know, give you really beautiful views, and you got up there, and then you walk through here, and then you go down the other side, right? I mean, let's look at this, right? Because it's over here too, right? Right? I mean, it's like you could walk this. Now, of course, they would certainly serve the men who are up here to walk there as well, and maybe that's exactly what it is, just temporary, so that the men can walk up there. But you know, I don't know. This stuff, when you know, it's kind of like trying to make sense of lies, and again, not 100% lies. All you have to do is insert a little bit of lie, and then the lie kind of doesn't sit right, and then you try to make it, you try to figure out how does this sit right, and it can't sit right because it ain't true. So I thought this was a pretty interesting construction picture. Okay, here's where we get. This is the Brooklyn Bridge, and remember the schematic. And it looks to me, and originally there were like little things up here. Now this is right. This is the Brooklyn Bridge, but there's nothing up here anymore. Except, you know, we have these, and well, this is not, okay, again, not the greatest resolution. It says 1875 there. And of course, there's the flag, right? We always got to find the flag. Because that's their big thing. Where they plant the flag, they think they own. You know, they think you plant a flag, it's mine. You know, instead of like, no, you go there, and wherever there's people that live there, they don't need a flag, because they already have their flesh and blood on the land, in the soil. Nobody needs a flag. You know, when you really belong to the land. This is, hi, I'm here with my guns. The land is mine. Native Americans could tell us a thing or two about that story. And Dane Calloway has been doing a great job covering who the Native Americans were. And pick a skin color, and you could probably find a native tribe that was either intermixed with all of them, or you know, some of them might have just, you know, through being secluded and certain, you know, like having breed, you know, any breed of like the color of furs of animals, you get all kinds of blends. I mean, skin color and fur color there was really no difference. You know, there's the human animal, the human being, right there. We're all the same human animal, except for the ones who aren't. And it sure isn't about the color of your skin or your fur that makes you human or not. Nor from where you, or what part of the earth that you arose from. Ah, Statue of Liberty. Okay, I got a really old photo that. So while we're looking here, so we know there's been some building. We know that this was the original Star Fort. Looks like they filled it in with concrete. And this is pretty much the original pedestal. And this door here that they now, because this is all new junk here. This door originally, and you'll see in the next picture, was the size at least of these doors, but it kind of comes down to here. And of course, right now, if a regular person were to come in, they'd have these doors, you know, and we're going to see it from another angle. But anyway, so you can even see, you know, this was the Star Fort. You can see the age of this, and you can see the age, the elegance, the beauty, and then you can see basically a bunker. And that's how you know the Nazis were not of the same culture. They were not Arya. And that's why he had to claim Aryan, because you have like all the beautiful, you know, the original buildings, but if you see any like the modern Nazi architecture, it's like this kind of crap. It's, you know, it's concrete and blocks. You know, it's just it's such a different thing. The Prussians. Ah, okay, so we're still not seeing the full thing. We're getting a little bit, but again, so we're going to see in the next picture, we're going to see what really this bottom really looked like. But again, here's some people for perspective down here. So even though they made this door a lot smaller, they cut it in half or 2/3. Well, kind of like those. But this was an entry door, and we'll see it next. There we go. This is the original, okay, just before I think they still filled, I mean, this looks to me like this is not the original Star Fort, unless this wall, I mean, the Star Fort walls were not really so much strong military defense. Any wall plays a defense, but, you know, I think there were more containment for the energy that was usually generated by whatever was in the middle of it. But here, we can see this is the original door. Just to give you a perspective, there it is now, and there it is there. And then they built the bunker around it. So we're almost at the end here, folks. So this is Strasbourg, Argentina. And as usual, there's always on one side, will always be the water. We see the typical Antiquitech, the light. It looks to me like these are also like small canals surrounding. Again, bringing those good negative ions in there, and of course for the commerce. Look at that. I think I have another picture of it. Yeah. In Argentina. And where did some of the Nazis that got away go to? Argentina. Now, please, I am talking about the Nazi Party. I am not talking about German people. I am talking about controllers, and each, you know, just the ones who the ones who set up you know, for the slaughters of men in battlefields. And I'm not naming any names. That's why I'm saying the Nazi Party. I'm not even picking personages, because I don't know biographies. All I know is, you know, and there's, you know, there's dead bodies, and you know, lots of expenditures on, you know, warlike type stuff. So I just think that's pretty interesting that this is in Argentina, and it's called Strasbourg. Where's this? Oh, this is the cloisters again. Some building. Looks like, you know, with these airy ways, and then this here, maybe it was original. It's still, again, there are certain cases where it really, there's this you know, building on top of building. This is the inner cloisters again, and we can see, you know, there are these pillars, and here it is again. Fountains, as the old culture was known for, and I would say that this is their culture, because once again, we don't see what we see. We see life, we see peace. When this is not, there's no war. This is, you know, and we see the reverence for women. That's clearly a man. That's a woman. That's a man. Maybe it was, you know, woman man, you know, because it looks like it's an octagon or a hexagon, and just in case this is the full half and the other half's on the other side, but these could also be flat sides. So we'd be looking at 3, these 2 flat sides, there'd be another 3 on the other side, 2 flat sides, so 3, 3, 1, and 1, 8. But you know, like these pillars, like you can see again, look at the font, you know, this is really, this looks fairly aged. So some of the fine detail, but you can still see the excellence. Where some of the stuff going on up here doesn't seem so fine. Looks like it's actually added on to some of this stuff. Kind of similar thing. I thought I saw some. Did I see any abnormalities? Well, that window's closed up. And let's look at, there's this kind of yellowish stone. This looks like it was added a little later. And let's look at the work. I mean, once again, really, you don't see a whole lot of excess mortar here. Maybe it's about the same there. This looks a little sloppy over there. Interesting. But I've been there. It is quite an amazing place. Here it is again. The Met. And this is one of his favorite pictures again. You know, they show us the picture. Oh yes, the building of the railroad. No, there is a railroad. They got a lot of cars, and it's very clear there's men here filling each one of these cars with mud. And then look at the construction also of the cars. I mean, you think they could build a little bigger, but maybe they'd weigh too much otherwise. But it is real clear what's going on here. There are already tracks here, enough tracks that there's this whole train, and the main thing they seem to be here is they've already cleared out the mud on both sides, and here's how high the mud was. These must be the guys these must be the ones with the money, because these are the ones digging. And it's just, I mean, look, I mean, a mile of, or a quarter of a mile, tenth of a mile of mud train. But of course, they built the railroad. Yeah, sure, right. Yeah, we dug out, and then we laid the track. And now that we got the track, now we're going to use the railroad to dig out more mud. I mean, their stories are so pathetic. Okay, Alexia, I think this is just about the end here. But I don't know where this building is. I did a little bit of enhancement. I should have cut out my screenshot. But we're always used, to the Tartarian or the old culture had statuary endlessly, and we also know that on the two flags of Tari there was the griffin and the owl. Well, look at these two. Those look like owls to me. This doesn't look quite the same. It might be. Maybe it could be because of the lighting. But I don't know if that's an ear or a wing. Same thing. Now this doesn't look like an owl to me. It looks like kind of like a human-y kind of character. But I mean, them is owl. Those are owls. No, there's no question. Owl could be an owl. Doesn't look like an owl. Robe wearing dude. Street lamps. I think this might be the last one. No, this is Washington Bridge in New York City. This is Washington, not George Washington Bridge. And it crosses from the Bronx. I think this might be the Bronx side, and it goes over to Manhattan. And I think it was probably an old aqueduct that would also have been a bridge too. But look at the light fixtures here. Here, and then you got this one's here. That nice kind of work. And I have one other modern picture, but this is like an older. This is 18. What are they saying here? 18. Put my glasses for a second. 1898. And again, one side's the Bronx, the other side's Manhattan. This is about, well, the streets really don't matter, but it's getting pretty up Upper Manhattan. It like 168th Street for anybody who could make sense with that. I'll give you that metric. For most people, what's that supposed to mean? I understand. Actually, if you don't know what it means, it doesn't mean anything, and the data was useless. But for a few people, it might be, because they would be familiar and know what that means. So for the few that might assist, I threw it out, or otherwise I would have just left it out, because it would have been, meaningless. And here's a kind of like an artist type of rendition. So this is the Hudson River. No, is this the Hudson River here? Right, because this is supposed to be Bronx, and then that's Manhattan, right? Oh, this is like the Harlem River, because the East River, as you go north, it turns into the Harlem River. And we got horses. We don't seem to have a whole lot in the way of cars here. I'm guessing that although this looks like it hasn't been cleaned out properly, this is probably cobblestone. I lived in the Bronx, and all the elevated trains, all of them had cobblestone streets beneath them. And the cobblestones almost, no matter, cars were driving them all the time, the cobblestones did not move because they were laid so well. Every once in a while one would pop out, because trucks would drive underneath there too, and they were not built for the modern big trucks. But it's really interesting. So I see the fine cobblestone, that basically the elevated trains and the fine cobblestone work went together. So there's no question that they were part of the same infrastructure build out. And that basically when the English arrived, that branch. And again, we're talking about the pirates, not talking about the common Englishman. We're talking about the pirates, attached to royalty. That they say, they just say, oh yeah, we built this and we built that, and you found it. And in certain cases, you might have had to reclaim it because there was a bit of a disaster and some cleanup needed to be. And you guys are, I don't want to get too bad here. But really, you can see this it's really, you see the excellent masonry, and you can see there's almost like, the look of the old, Roman aqueducts. You can just imagine a bunch of arches having gone here and then saying, yeah, screw that. But you'll see this gorgeous work, and then you see the monkey work over here. Let's just pile some stones. Let's pile stones, pile mortar, pile stones, pile mortar. I mean, it gets the job done, but when you can see what somebody who actually loves to work with earth and stone and other stuff, and then you basically, somebody's a wage slave, and you get this kind of nut. This is because I need a wall. Well, somebody will figure it out. Yeah. But it is, good artistry. They keeping up the mud, but I wouldn't be surprised if underneath this mud, this cobblestone. Look at the fine fencing along the river here. You have that on the same thing on the FDR Drive along the east side. That would be on the western part of Manhattan. When you get a little bit further south, it's just amazing what's just built along the river there. And I drove along it for years and years. I didn't leave the city until I was 30, and I'm 66 now. And it just always like, wow, and now it's starting to strike me, and it's really wild. So this is the Williamsburg Bridge. This is more uptown. And I guess it's some kind of collapse. Remember the other bridge we were looking at with those kind of things? Oh, I think I don't have the caption, but something like there was a fire. You know how all this weird stuff. And I think this is a different bridge. I'm pretty sure it could be, but I mean the same. We see that same kind of weird. This wood scaffolding that seems to run up here, but in this case it's falling down. Bridge stood, but this part didn't. But I think they somehow said, oh, some kind of some bad thing happened. And if these were the walkways that were actually why these things were built, one way of if they just maybe were walkways, and they had ferries. You saw, and I think ferries. So this might have been just a nice way if people wanted to stroll, beautiful view. Once again, these people loved nature. This would have been like going up a mountain in a relatively flat area of Manhattan. This would have been like creating the sense of being like, climbing a small mountain and getting a beautiful view. And we're back. Okay, that is it. You'll see my face now again. And I'll say goodbye. Say goodnight. So thank you for the new subscribers. I hope that you enjoy it. I know I'm just, I'm a different person than the other, just a different personality. And so I'll just do my take. To me, I think it's the more people that feel comfortable with doing it, have the gift of gab, which helps, and something, a little slight different take. Let's all throw all this on the table. What we have to offer each other. That's what I'm doing. Send out lots of love to you all. Even to the nasty people. I especially send in nasty people love because I know just burn their ass. Alright, so take care of yourself. Stay sane. Looks like, spring is approaching. And just be well. Until next time.